if you could support this observation, because you are the person in our company who actually works hands-on with the teams when we work with them. And one of the mundane tasks that we perform for our clients is analyzing and making audit for their infrastructure, figuring if it performs well, if it's cost effective, and we then create basically a document for their development and operations team, what needs to be addressed, and creating them steps how to implement our recommendations and how to fix the observations. And then the most interesting part of the work starts when we have to work with these teams. And what we discovered is most of the times the team requests support with implementing those tasks, because the way the things that we discover are always, like, let's say, beyond their everyday understanding of the work and the workload and what they got used to do on their workplace, and they need basically another hand to help with that. And I wonder, Pablo, do you think this happens due to mismanagement in the companies, or is it really because the tooling that we are currently use is so complex that we just cannot, the companies, especially the younger companies, just can't keep up with changes, with the new environment and new tools that appear on the market?
I think that if you compare that with the restaurant and with the kitchen, you can see the sample. Because, for example, if you think, I don't know, an omelette, or you think something simple, in every restaurant you have an omelette, but not always the omelette is the same. And the omelette is the same because at the end it's eggs and some kind of fat. And the end you do the omelette, and the end result could be different. And this is what happened with the companies. At the end you have an infra, and you have a number of services that you need to deploy. And in every company, there is a different chef. So this chef is the one who tell to you how to do this omelette. And then he's telling in some cases, okay, I want to make an omelette that's all is a basic omelette. Everything is going to be raw, and the water is going to be dry. So it's going to be a basic omelette, or I want to do something fancy. And at the end, every company has a different manager, a different project manager, a different organization, and everyone is different. And everyone is doing in most of the cases. All of us, we are doing the same. What is different is not the infra, most of the cases. What is different is the software. For example, what Carita is doing in the company, what is different is this ability for them to create something, this new software that is able to do things, to do the magic. At the end, this is going to be set up in an infra that is going to be, imagine, Kubernetes. And now is, for example, when you're using Kubernetes, you can use what Karel was telling before, all the functionalities that Kubernetes offer to you. Or you can say, okay, I only want to do my simple omelette, and then it's going to be like that. Or I want to do something cool. And then when I do something cool, there will be more customers. When we move to the infra, maybe we reduce costs, or maybe we secure more the environment, or many other things. So I don't think that the people is not doing the things in the best way because it's difficult. There are many reasons. Some cases is because they don't have time to improve. In some other cases, they try to do the best, but the knowledge is limited. In some cases, there is no documentation. There are hundreds of cases, and even in many cases, you surprise and you say, wow, this is fantastic. What did you do here? Because I never saw that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think you see similar scenarios, but we're very different, causes for these scenarios. And I think a lot has to do with also mindset and the way the organization works today. But I think there's a direct link to is like, who makes a tool decision, and how is that tool, who develops an internal platform, for instance, and who's the key stakeholder? Oftentimes it's a collection of services, that are focused around DevOps, but then the adoption and development teams are not there. And the other way around, like if you have a great developer experience, but the DevOps feel like it's not really in my control. Like you said, you want a robust environment. You want some sort of control. So we find it's finding exactly that balance between you have a central responsibility for operations and for reliability and governance. At the same time, you want to have a kind of like a lever like, how can I drive autonomy? Because in the end, why autonomy? Why is that important? Because writing tickets and having long and intense feedback loops is not productive. That's what everyone's like. Developers are saying, the developers, they don't know how to write a manifest. And then the developers are like, I'm waiting too long for a response. I need a new environment, and it goes back and forth, and that's also maybe because of the tooling, but it could also be solved with tooling. But that's kind of like the what we've seen a lot is there's just a lot of things that slow down these little iterative steps in running cloud native applications and solving issues that are solved with the back and forth, and we're trying to solve that, and the issues are, or the causes are very, very diverse. I would agree with Pablo there.
I remember I've been reading one article at the Red Hat blog. It's an old article. I don't remember how the name of it. I will find it and put in the link in the description. But they've been talking about the concept of shift left initiatives. I think like that is when the developers have to integrate testing, CI/CD, and security measures earlier in the development cycle. But at the same time, it also leads to significant cognitive loads for them. And I've been wondering if this is still a thing, and whether like specialized roles are still valuable, or we are keep shifting into increasing the responsibilities of developers, and if this increasing will continue and their responsibilities will continue expanding as infrastructure complexity grows.
I think, it's always a pendulum, probably. Shift left is important, and, you build it, you run it. And so the responsibility of operating what you're building. I do think there's some remaining validity to that approach. That's one thing that I believe in. There are parts that you want to call it delegate, distributing. We live in a distributed system. We live in distributed responsibilities. You have to shift some of the responsibility end to end in order to see the full picture, to see ownership, to see also for the quality of products. And so I do believe in that. At the same time, I do see for some parts of especially infrastructure where it might go too far, and you want a centralized, or you want a different responsibility, an ops team, SRE team that handles that part. I don't know if there'll ever be that right answer. I think it's shifting, but I do believe that one thing that has definitely happened is that, the cognitive load for developers is increased if you do it without streamlining the workflows underneath it. So if you believe that, why wouldn't you enable developers to understand, how does the deployment work, and how can I fix my issues that I run into when I test my applications, for instance, or when I work in development, I want production-like environments. So I do want that operational capability, but it shouldn't be at the price of, I don't really want to deal with infrastructure. I don't know. And there's always like repetitive tasks that I do every couple of weeks and months, and then I forget. And, it's can become overwhelming. So it's to find that middle ground where you can delegate and you can have a collaborative approach that simply empowers them to solve their issues that are relevant for their development and testing cycles, but maybe not relevant to, I don't know if you need that for production, for instance. You have a different process for production, but until you get there, there might be many, many things that make absolute sense for developers to be involved in.
I'm sorry, Pablo, but if many people listen to us right now, and some of them are managers, and they are asking themselves right now what they can do in order to make it easier for the developers. How can they structure the work, or maybe hire new people? Because you can say, okay, if you don't understand Kubernetes right now, probably you are not skilled enough, and maybe you need to be replaced. Or maybe the correct answer would be, you are good at it, so do this. Another person good at something else, and they should do this. How managers should structure this, and how they need to set up their teams nowadays in order to make their teams perform well and not to be overloaded with tasks and knowledge that they probably don't need right now.
My answer to that. Normally, exactly what the manager would say. It's like, okay, I need more hands. I need to train, I need to onboard, I need to spend and invest time in developing the team. Our answer is a little different. Our answer is like, invest in good policy and good documentation, in infrastructure as code, whatever it helps you replicate and duplicate your work without reinvesting the time and going back to and having that initial work without economies of scale. So invest in them. That's a platform. That's something It could be a monetary investment. If you buy a vendor solution, it could be your internal platform team. And that I would consider, do you need to make every of your developer, for instance, a Kubernetes expert or a database expert or whatever? Probably, even if you said yes, it's a very hypothetical scenario. And so what's the alternative? Okay, then you have a bigger DevOps team supporting and managing the support desk. They become a help desk, and there's more support effort. Is that the right answer, or do you invest in the platform? And always, there's never the same answer to that question. But I would encourage to look at beyond, more hands and investing in that, and try to streamline and invest more in the platform thought. That's what it's there for. Streamline and reduce cognitive load, enable self-services, and make service more replicable, or work for processes, I should say.